Hey, how's it going? I'm Cameron Coates, editor-in-chief of Radio Inc. Welcome to Quarter for Your Thoughts, the latest edition of the Radio Masters Sales Series. I'm thrilled to have Paige Nienaber joining me today, one of radio's most inventive and irreverent minds when it comes to promotions. A former promotions director in markets including Minneapolis, Charlotte, and San Francisco, Paige has spent more than 3 decades consulting stations around the world through CPR promotions. He's the author of the Encyclopedia of Radio Promotions, The Street Hacker's Guide to the Universe, and he hosts the podcast 3 Radio Promotions in 3 Minutes. You can also catch his weekly column in Radio Inc.'s Daily Headlines. Welcome, Paige. And I should add, happy National Radio Day.
I just happened to spot that, on Facebook. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here because no one better to talk promotions with, especially as we head into Q4, which is really just a bonanza. It's kind of the final dash, and it's when a lot of folks are trying to make a lot of money, maybe to make up for Q2, as we've seen from some of the reports.
Well, the cliche has always been that content is king, but it's true. And ideas in 2025, ideas will sell spots. But it's not any different than it used to be. But it's like we've rediscovered this. But yeah, I mean, whoever has the best ideas or even the most ideas, if you throw 20 ideas at a car dealer, the odds are that one of them doesn't suck and that he'll bite. So, I think it's important now to be looking at the fourth quarter. We had talked about how the promotion director at KDWB had segued into a career as a roadie for the Stone Temple Pilots, but then became the marketing director at Mall of America, which is obviously a big deal here in the Twin Cities. And she had a whole different perspective about how behind the ball radio was in terms of coming to, the mall with ideas for promotions. She'd have stations come to her in September, and she's like, for a Christmas promotion, she's like, well, we had that lockdown in April. So, maybe next year. So, in terms of the fourth quarter, it is the final 4. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. I look at all of those as being, you could probably have 3 promotions for each of these. Something digital, something for the morning show, and an event. And I do, when I troll around and I look at station websites and all they have are, ask Alexa and download our app, that tells me that you're not doing very much. I think shining examples would be 93Q in Syracuse, which is a monster. Y94 in Fargo. If you have a chance, look at B105 in Cincinnati, what they're doing right now. They got like 4 different promotions going on, and they're all great. So I always try to have 2 or 3 things that are happening at a given time. So yeah, 3 things. It's like a Chinese menu. You pick one from column A, one from column B, one from column C. What you need to do for the fourth quarter is you need to get to October 15th. After October 15th, everything just kind of takes care of itself. So what could you stick in at the beginning of October? Well, you could stick in obviously Breast Cancer Month, the greatest of all the charities, and being involved with the initiatives and the stuff is fantastic, and that would be a good place to take it or to do it. And then you segue into Halloween. We discovered in COVID that brackets, so something digital. We discovered in COVID that brackets work outside of March. And so, and the Beasley stations have been fantastic at that, at monetizing brackets. KYXY in San Diego for back to school, they did school lunches, the best school lunches in San Diego for their audience, 42-year-old women. It was sponsored by a grocery store. So your Halloween brackets could be candy or horror films. There's a couple ideas right there. An event for Halloween, if you're going to, and again, there's like 100, and it's so difficult to cover all this stuff. There's 100,000 different Halloween ideas, and same for Thanksgiving and same for Christmas. So if you have any questions, please email me at paige@cpr-promotions.com. If you have not done a pumpkin drop, you haven't lived. Pumpkin drops are fantastic. One of the best I saw done was in Milwaukee. and they got I think it was about a 600-pound pumpkin, and they hollowed it out and they filled it with balls. It was in the parking lot of a shopping mall, and you had to go into the mall and guess how far the furthest ball was going to fly when it impacted the ground, when they dropped it in the mall parking lot. And I think it was something like 250 feet. And then you won a gift certificate to the mall. But it was a great visual. When you think about this stuff, think like Monty Hall, who is a marginal success. If Monty Hall had $1,000 shopping spree for Christmas, Monty Hall would probably not have people enter their emails. He would do something big, stupid, and visual. Pumpkin drops qualify for all of those criteria: big, stupid, and visual. And then you want to, if you're going to delve into costume contests, every bar, VFW, club that has a liquor license does a costume contest. So if you're going to go into the costume contest foray, then you need a hook. You need to do something that stands out from all of the rest, because everybody is doing them. Come to the bar and there's a $100 grand prize. The hook that we found with a lot of the stations are big cash prizes. In the promotion that I've seen done, is called the Erotic Exotic Ball. This is done at the Zone in Sacramento. KDWB in Minneapolis did it. Wild in Tampa did it. The Exotic Erotic Ball. The hook was big cash prizes. It wasn't a $100 bar tab. It was $1,000 for the best costume, $500 for the best male costume, $500 for the best female costume, $500 for the best couple's costume. What you do when you have these kinds of prizes is you're targeting the professional costume people, the people who Halloween is their one night of the year to go out of their minds. My friend Bob is like Clark Griswold. He is a genius with food additives, and Halloween is his one night to go nuts. And Bob has, since 8th grade, always had the best costume at any party that he went to. So if you get the Bobs of the world, then you're going to get everybody else. I went to one of the exotic erotic balls at a station in Reno. They had 3,000 people. The competition had 143. So big cash prizes. And then in terms of, your third element, something for the morning show for Halloween. At the end of the day, every cable or satellite TV channel has a paranormal special. I think the Golf Channel probably has a paranormal special. They've obviously tapped into something. People love that stuff. So to do something for the morning show where a seance or doing something like that, like in the case of, Albuquerque, we had the audience pick what celebrity they were going to channel. And so they were able to get on the air and say, Robin Williams is in the studio this Friday. Channeling is fantastic. Past life regressions are fantastic. I know that K-Earth in LA did a past life regression with one of the hosts, and it was audio crack. It was just amazing stuff to listen to. So and there's only 100,000 ideas. So hit me up. But for Halloween, it is a time of the year that people, truly get into it. One of the things you could do is you could do Ghost Finder. I've seen Finder done by some of the stations, like for instance, Hubbard in Cincinnati has done fish fry finder. So you just enter in your zip code and it tells you what fish fries are closest to you. Cool 108 in Minneapolis did garage sale finder. There are neighborhoods, parts of towns that have just great, amazing Halloween displays. Great. Do a map or do a search part thing so people can go out and visit these. You do the same thing at Christmas with Christmas Light Finder, with neighborhoods or individuals who have great Christmas displays. Then you need something for the beginning of November.
Well, here, let me jump in and say, if anybody has any comments or questions, make sure and put those here on LinkedIn, and they'll show up here, and we'll get to those if we have time at the end. So, and I also wanted to ask, what was the best Bob costume you ever saw?
He did Little Dead Riding Hood, which was pretty amazing. And again, it's his one night of the year where he loses his mind. And there are a lot of people who do that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
kind of like the best example is Jimmy Buffett concerts, where it's the one night of the year where people could go and behave immaturely and, be silly in the parking lots and stuff like that. Once you get past Halloween, you have a hole at the beginning of November. You have about 2 weeks to fill before Thanksgiving takes over. After, several weeks of just content, and just have nothing for 2 weeks while you wait for Thanksgiving, is a pretty startling drop off. Concerts are a great hole filler, but you do need something for the first 2 weeks of November, and then Thanksgiving takes over. Thanksgiving, the lead up to Thanksgiving, if you haven't given away turkeys, you haven't lived. We can overthink pricing. We can't get more than 4% of people to pick up the phone and try to win $1,000, which is pretty pathetic. If you get on the air and give away turkeys, you will blow out the phone system. But then you have to apply Monty Hall to it. What would Monty Hall do? Well, one thing that you could do is live cam a turkey with one of those little red plugs in it. And when the little red plug goes bleep, that's the cue. So just, log on to our Facebook page or our Instagram page. We're live streaming this. And when it goes bloop, that's the cue. KLUC in Las Vegas did turkey races, which, and anytime you have interns with leaf blowers, that's just good fun. So they got 98 little paper accordion style turkeys, and they numbered them, and they gave them away on the air. So Cameron, you have turkey number 33. On the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, they made a big pile of these turkeys in the hallway outside the conference room, and then interns with leaf blowers blew them down the hall, around the corner, back around the corner, back down. And the first turkey that crossed the finish line in front of the conference room, won a turkey, just one turkey. It was massively huge. So, doing something like that. We've talked about with, if you a grocery store dash, I've seen that done with a few stations where a listener gets a dial position number of seconds to dash through a grocery store and grab as much food as they can, followed by the morning show doing the same thing, and the food that they collect gets donated. The best, if we can't get more than 4% of people to pick up the phone and try to win $1,000, what percentage of people are going to go, wow, they're collecting canned food. I feel compelled to go and drop off the canned food. The best, you need a reason, you need a premise, you need a story. You need a reason for people to do this. The best turkey drive ever has always been Free Willy, where you get a live turkey and you sentence them to death. And for a week leading up to Thanksgiving, you take Willie the turkey around and put them on display like in client parking lots, and people can drop off their canned food, and if you get their dial position or whatever, the number of cans of food, Willie gets to go free. And you always want to have a high sense of drama to it. When we did it in Phoenix, all the imaging was done as if Willie was on death row. I played the warden, and I was talking to Willie about his final requests. Gobble, 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 okay, gobble, gobble. I said, whoa, conjugal visits needed to be addressed through your attorney 2 weeks ago. And then, of course, the night before Thanksgiving at 5 p.m., we went live to death row. Willie, you heard footsteps, and you heard the cell doors open up, and warden saying, it's time to go, Willie. And you heard as him walking down, you heard other prisoners, see you in hell, Willie. And then they strapped him in, and just at the very last second, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, a hero in Phoenix, called at the very last second and ceased the execution. And Willie was remanded to a kid's zoo because there's just not enough good turkey role models in the community. I said turkey roll. What you need something leading up to Thanksgiving. It's charitable. It could be a food drive. It could be something based around travel. You could be giving away gas cards. if you, the week before Thanksgiving is one of the highest pizza order delivery periods in the U.S. And that's because you have a lot of people who are just knee deep in making food who are like, I don't need one more thing. I just get a pizza. So one of the stations did it as Mommy's Little Helper. So they gave away pizzas to people who were getting ready for Thanksgiving. Travel again is the comedic element. If you can get a flight attendant on the air, they're always very close-lipped about what carriers they work for, but flight attendants are amazing guests for the morning show because you have people who only travel once every 2 years, and they slow everybody else up. So giving away travel advice, that would be good. The weekend, after Thanksgiving doesn't end on Thursday at midnight. It goes all the way till Monday morning at 5 a.m. You need to have something Thanksgiving or Christmas shopping. Once you get it past Thanksgiving, Christmas is a vibe that you wrap yourself in. We are so stretched, for content so many times of the year that if you don't just bathe in Christmas, it's too bad. You need the three things again for Christmas: something digital, an event, and then something specifically for the morning show. And I've always liked bundling prizes. So in the case of one of the stations, everything that they had to give away were done as stocking stuffers. And because we do tend to get a lot of stuff from clients to give away. So as opposed to having 18 or 20 different contests going on, everything goes into stockings. We went to a Walgreens. We bought a bunch of stockings for 99 cents. We got glitter. We got glue. We made station stockings, which, by the way, are fantastic swag. People love logoed stockings. And so you would call in and you would win a stocking. And they would make, it was all theater of the mind. They would go over to the mantle in the studio. We got Cameron Coates. Okay, we got Cameron B. We got Cameron B. We got Cameron C. Here we go. We took down the stocking, went back and dumped it out on the air, and you won whatever was inside of it. Stocking stuffers are great. WROR in Boston bundled all their prizes and put them in a sleigh. And it was, you won everything that was in the sleigh. I forget what the methodology was. I think it was possibly a high-low contest. And then you get into the toy drives. Again, everybody does toy drives, as we should. If you're going to do it, it needs a hook. If you're going to do it, you want something that people will actually participate and you'll get results. So if you're not familiar with Chet Buchanan at KLUC, it's the biggest toy drive in radio anywhere. And I had a GM who was like, well, we do this thing where we're at Dave and Buster's for a weekend. And I went, Chet collected 700,000 toys, $300,000 in gift cards, 9,000 bikes. And the hook is that Chet goes and he lives on a scaffold. He doesn't just do his shift in a mall or something like that. He is outside. They have a porta potty up there. They have his studio up there. They have a canopy. They have a tent for him to live in. And he stays up there for, I think, about 12 days. And it's just not him getting on the air begging for stuff. He's really putting himself out there. In Las Vegas, in December can be nippy. It's a different kind of cold. I'm from Minnesota. Two different kinds of cold. Las Vegas can be chilly. And so he's up there, and it is a monster. And they have found every possible way to sell this thing imaginable to man. They have sold everything except for the oxygen that he breathes in. And that will probably be the next thing that they do. We did a thing with one. I've always liked, risk, consequence, or some kind of consequence. So with one of the stations, we determined that Mariah Carey was by far the most annoying of the Christmas songs. So they got on the air and they played it over and over and over and over until they got 5,000 toys. What is the reason for me to donate a toy? It's to get this song to stop playing on the radio. Again, for Christmas, there's 100,000 different other things that you can do. You can have a psychic on the air. and have psychic, helping listeners guess what they're getting for Christmas. You can do toy reviews. You take kids around to shopping malls and you can have them rate Santas. If you were to do a bracket at Christmas time, a bracket could be Christmas. Actually, your Christmas bracket is absolutely holiday films. Movies are the entertainment universal. Everybody loves movies. They might disagree about what kinds of movies you like, but social media has done all of our research. If you get on social media and you talk about how such and such movie is the greatest Christmas movie ever, you will have people who will agree with you and you'll have people who will disagree with you. So a Christmas movie bracket is something that you could do. In terms of an event, we're in radio, so it is expected that there'll be a staff Halloween or staff Christmas party. There are a lot of businesses that don't have Christmas parties. When I worked in San Francisco, we did the world's largest office party. It was sponsored by Bacardi. And it was a Christmas party for all of our listeners who, for whatever reason, their businesses didn't have a staff party. And it was a fantastic event. It went really, really well. If you can do it, hands down, the nuke, the bomb, the promotion that wipes out everything else is the flight to the North Pole. I saw it done for the first time at 102 Jams in Orlando. They did it with the Orlando Magic. They used the Orlando Magic's plane, and they loaded it with kids for a flight to the North Pole. And basically, all the kids got on board. The windows were sealed. They had elves and everything on the plane, and they taxied around the Orlando airport, and then pulled back into a gate at the end of the terminal. And they'd closed off that end of the terminal, and it had been decorated as Santa's workshop. And the kids got off, and they were at the North Pole. This is as work burdensome as you want to make it. It doesn't have to be a Disney-like production. One of the Canadian stations has it's a regional carrier. And so they only get about, I think, 32 kids who are on the plane. But they taxi around the runway, they stop, they can't see outside. And the pilot is giving a play-by-play as they fly along. They're revving the engines and everything. He's talking about how there's a deer down. Oh, no. That's a reindeer. We're close. And then they land, and then Santa gets on the plane and gives all the kids their stuff. It is so unfathomably huge. So if you can do the flight to the North Pole, that's monstrous. And again, 100,000 Christmas ideas. Email me, Paige at cpr-promotions.com.
No, that is magical. And as someone who did the Christmas movie bracket, that was some of the most fun I've had interacting with listeners through that process when I was on the air.
Well, then you get into the week after Christmas, which is for radio a dead zone of nothingness. We can never have a dead zone of nothingness. We can't let the audience lose their attention to what we're doing. If you have not given away hotel rooms on the air, you have not lived. And it doesn't have to be the nicest hotel in town. People want to, if they go out for New Year's Eve, prolong the evening. They just don't want to go home. So giving away some hotel rooms is great. New Year's Eve is a very one-dimensional holidays. We look at it as being nothing but drunken debauchery. There's not a lot for families to do, so movie nights or family events are great. New Year's Eve is a fantastic promotion where you do a party for families on the morning of the 31st, and you do a countdown to 12 noon. And it's an opportunity for families to go out and do something together and then stash the kids with their grandparents and go out and get drunk. I saw New Year's Eve done at Chuck E. Cheese. I've seen it done in a number of places like that. And then the other thing is party crashing. If you have the ability, we all think that everything for New Year's Eve has to evolve around clubs. A small percentage of our audience are going to go to nightclubs or to these events. And if they're there, they're not listening to us anyway. So I've always enjoyed party crashing because on the air, it makes you sound like you're everywhere. I've done it multiple times at stations around the country. So when you're listening on New Year's Eve, and God, I hope there are people who are listening on New Year's Eve. Every 20 or 30 minutes, you hear a DJ checking in from somebody's house, and they're dropping off pizzas or they're dropping off deli trays. You don't overthink pricing. New Year's Eve, if you drop off food, you're gold. Take some photos, post them social media, get in the vehicle, drive to the next place. If you can get 8 or 10 or 12 calls over the evening from different places around town, it rounds out your on-air sound. You just sound so dramatically better than the station that's running a pre-recorded countdown. And then it's New Year's Day.
That's fantastic. And I know we have a few folks that have been talking about some of their promotions. Maria here talking about had Buddy the Elf drop in to deliver some outdoor prizes, which has got to be
fantastic.
Amazing.
Oh, I love that.
And then we have Bob Goff is talking about they did a gobble gobble contest, I guess in the spirit of bracketology, where kids will do their best turkey gobble, and then they will vote on them with some of the
really quick, Thanksgiving Day is kind of a throwaway day for us. I've seen a couple of stations where the day was jocked by turkeys. So everything was normal, except that there was no live announcers. It was just turkeys. And then they would stage interaction with listeners. Gobble, 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 gobble. Hey, could I hear the new song by Tate McRae? Gobble, 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 gobble. Hey, that's fantastic. I love you guys. Gobble, 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 gobble. And again, why not?
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything. And we all, we all are familiar with, obviously, with holiday music. What if you blew up the format and switch, and got on the air and said, listen, everybody does Christmas music. Nobody does Thanksgiving music. And we've done 27 focus groups, and the overwhelming demand is for Thanksgiving music. And then let's play Alice's Restaurant all day long. Again, why not?
I love that. And then Corey asked, is there such a thing as too much contests? I think I know your answer for this one. If you're running a lot of promotions at the same time.
Yeah, I was absolutely guilty of the artillery barrage theory of promotions, doing too much. And when the announcers would come to me and say, I don't get it, well, then we had done too many. I think you can do a couple things at one time. 93Q and Syracuse just had their best number since 1999. And they always have at least 2 things going on. And then it's just a balancing act. And again, with the national contests, this is gonna sting, but nobody enters these things. Or they do, but if McDonald's had a menu item that less than 4% of people would buy, they'd cancel it. So I think you can balance out the national contest with, a bracket or something else like that, or some morning show content. Like right now in Cincinnati, they have a couple of different charity initiatives that are going on. They're giving away a roof to a charity, and then they're giving away, I forget what else they're doing, and then they're doing they're going out and taking over high school concession stands on Friday nights. So they got, I think, 3 things going on right now. And, it's a balancing act. But, yeah, you can absolutely do too much. But I would rather do too much than just run little banner ads for Alexa.
I think that's all good. If you have a few more questions, we have a few more minutes. But, this is the advice that you're given. The concessions thing I love. That was in your column this morning. You can find Paige's words.
And the thing is, in a lot of communities, high school football is not just a high school thing. Mm-hmm. It's a whole community thing. And you can go out to these things and everybody is there. But then what we do is, all we do is we acknowledge high school football. And then, in late November, it's over and we don't talk about high schools again. HYT in Detroit did Team of the Week, where every week they would have a different high school team come in. And they did this throughout the year. It was sponsored by Hungry Howie's. And it allowed them to cherry pick key communities and key zip codes. So it was, we're going to have the girls swim team from Romulus, Michigan are going to come in on Thursday night. And then next week we're going to have the boys track team from, Livonia or something like that. It was a great promotion. And when you do have these high school teams come in, you will get ears. You will get, and if you promote in advance, you'll get a lot of people tuning in to hear it.
And you can find all sorts of ideas like this every single Wednesday in our Radio Inc. daily headlines. And of course, you do a podcast that comes out every week. Nice, short and sweet, gives you 3 new ideas each week. And you're in our magazine as well. And if they want to get in touch with you, where can they?
Paige at cpr-promotions.com.
Easy enough.
Or Gmail, it's flirtyboypage69 at we don't do that one for business.
It's at Hotmail.
Yeah. Excite.com.
There's a promotion for you. Get all the listeners to send in their worst old email address.
You know what? I still use my Earthlink address because I know that if I canceled it, hundreds of people in India would lose their jobs.
That's very magnanimous of you.
There we go.
That's very brave. So, Paige, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. This was fun.
Yeah.
And again, there's only, I have 27 pages of ideas for Christmas. I mean, we can do more than just the 12 days of Christmas, which is not a bad promotion, by the way.
Well, got to get in touch with Paige, and we'll put that up on our headlines tomorrow. So make sure you check out the daily headlines for all the appropriate links and maybe a few slightly inappropriate links because it's also so.
That's assured.
But we will see you next month for another Radio Masters Sales Series webinar. Thank you again so much for joining us. I'm Cameron Coates with Radio Inc. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.